things are starting to feel crowded as more and more companies try to pitch their Netflix for games, cloud-based streaming services. But Microsoft says the experience it's gained through its X branch gives it a potential leg up on the competition. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella spoke to Business Insider and other publications earlier this week on the subject of the game streaming service, Project Cloud. The company announced late last year, saying that both its X dealings and its growing list of Microsoft-owned and published games play Project in a strong position. We have a structural position in that we have both a console business as well as a PC business, which happens to be bigger than the console business when it comes to gaming, he said. As mentioned by Business Insider, Nadella also called out his experience with X-Live and the company's history of synergy between its Windows and X video game branches through things like its X Play Anywhere program. We have as much a shot to build a subscription service as anybody else. Microsoft's Project Cloud aims to, like many others in the cloud-based game service space, let people play video games on demand from a variety of platforms, while the actual game is being hosted on a remote machine. The goal is to launch the service with the capability to stream games on 4G networks, ideally opening PC and X1-only games up to players that primarily use mobile phones to play games. Other companies have dabbled in the same kinds of projects, with Google notably testing its Project Stream service that can stream AAA games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey through a Google Chrome browser window. Verizon and Amazon are also rumored to have their own game streaming services in the works, though official details on both are still scarce. Burnout is an imprecise term for a very specific, endemic problem in game development, one often, but not always, caused by the industry's proclivity for crunch. Being a game developer is often an exercise in endurance, working on a creative project for years on end. There is a constant pressure to push harder to see the thing through, a sense that the task is endless, but that more work might just get it done quicker. Financial, social, and cultural reasons make developers throw themselves into it, feeling guilty while they are afraid of what will happen if it does not get done quicker. Those pressures can and will wear a developer down, slowly crushing them without them even knowing it until it is far too late. Burnout is an extremely serious issue for game developers as they work themselves ever harder to see their passion projects brought to life, all through buckling down to get that huge game released on time. It is an insidious thing that devours minds and bodies with overwork, breaking the wonderful, creative people who want to bring their incredible visions to the world. Whenever you care about someone or something more than yourself, your risk of burnout takes a big leap forward, says Jonathan Holmes, licensed independent clinical social worker. Burnout is a slang term when people get stuck in a behavior pattern that they were once able to thrive in, but over time makes them more and more anxious and depressed. Think of when a car spins its tires at high RPMs without going anywhere, and all you get from it is the stink of burnt rubber. But instead of your car, it's your brain. That's burnout. These overworking behaviors, often lauded, are worn like badges of honor in the game development industry, often only serve to leave its creative minds in ruins, breaking people down. In an industry where people seem proud of working 12, 16, 24, or more hours during crunch periods that never seem to end, there are endless stories of burnout. I got thrown into the deep end and found myself trying to code multiple games by myself in a short amount of time. without any real guidance. Says Ko Nguyen of United Kingdom Game Dev Asobi Tech. As time went on, the time pressures grew and grew, as each milestone had to be reached. Regardless of the various issues I was running into due to my inexperience, I went from working from home to moving into a small bed and breakfast, so I could be closer to the office, meaning I could code from the first thing in the morning till the very last thing at night, rinse and repeat. My burnout spiral began when I felt like my experience as a teacher was not being recognized by my peers. Whether that was true or not does not quite matter. I decided to work on games outside of my regular 9 to 5 hours. Says Jennifer Sherrill of Opaque Space. I kept taking on more and more gigs outside of my full-time job to seek legitimacy, and I never felt like I was quite doing as well or as much as others in my industry. A lot of regional awards and official recognition include questions on what a person does besides their regular job. E.g. 30 under 30 lists. So there is a general consensus on asking people to work more than the regular 40 hours a week. On the worst nights, I would lay in bed with my laptop, glowing with Game Maker open. Says James Earl Cox III of Seemingly Pointless. I was trying to sleep with it next to me, hoping that maybe I would wake up refreshed and ready to code something. But it mostly existed as a reminder that I was not making anything anymore. There was an overwhelming one of guilt. I did fall asleep in a panic and wake up the same way, one day closer to whatever trivial deadline I was currently dreading. These stories can be the end of a game, though, the last straw for a project, and for the person behind it. As an industry, how can we identify warning signs in our own behaviors? How can we sense burnout coming before it hits? And what can we do about it when it's here? Most importantly, how can we stop it from happening to begin with? Gamasutra spoke with a handful of developers about their personal stories of burnout, and how, as an industry, we can hope to heal and better protect from the awful practices that led to it. In graduate school, I was pushed to work myself to the bone, and I did it was a year and a half accelerated master's degree program at the Guildhall and SMU. Says Tanya Short of Kid Fox Games. Although classes were of a standard length, assignments and projects easily ate up 60 to 80 hours every week. For the whole 80 maths, I had become very sensitive to how the quality of my work suffers when I am not well rested, physically and mentally. In the latter half of 2016 and the first half of 2017, I took Sausage Sports Club to several PAX conventions. This being big marketing and networking opportunities, I of course wanted to push to make the game as polished as possible. Says Chris Wade of Luckshot Games. Each time one of these events would come around, I did spend 2 weeks before the show overworking myself every day. That means long hours, not spending time with friends and my then girlfriend, and just generally failing to take care of myself and living space. Then the event comes and there's more crunch, like living with booth prep, setup, and then having to be on all day, every day demoing the game at each convention. All of that combined to make me a bottle of stress and anxiety, and dead brain, and then I did get home and be useless for a few days, and then close to useless for a few weeks, and now the next PAX is in a month. Here we go again. He continues. Every developer reached out to for this article could rhyme off that list one story of a time they had worked themselves into burnout, struggling to meet deadlines or fighting to push themselves to certain goals. It took minutes to find enough developers to fill an article, and their examples could easily go on for pages and pages. Holmes illustrates a bit of what is happening to these developers, and many others, in burnout. Though I am not a medical clinician, I am pretty sure that burnout has not yet become an official medical term or diagnosis. It's a sad irony, but it makes sense given that it's more of a slang term, one that the medical community is intimately aware of, as many of them suffer from it themselves. That's especially true of people who work in the fields of psychiatry and behavioral health, where burnout among clinicians is both highly prevalent and largely met without any sort of intervention for positive change. There is a glutamate in our brains that gets burned every time we have to make a decision, with more stressful decisions requiring more of the stuff than minor or inconsequential ones.